Thanks for staying with us on The Real Story. Coming right from their protest at the Capitol, thousands calling for more funding in the state budget. Rob Baril, president of SEIU Healthcare's 1199 District Union, and Kelly Carrigan, a developmental disabilities specialist at Caring Community, are joining me now. Thank you both so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks. So there's been a lot going on, The strike has been over a week now. So you're coming straight from the Capitol, straight from the street. It's been over 2 weeks of striking and rallying. So tell me what the energy has been like out there as we're getting closer to hopefully a state budget. We can, start with Kelly and then go to Rob.
I think the energy is just full of commitment from the staff and management that we just have to get this full package to have the agency survive and have staff to take care of our clients going forward.
Yeah, I would say that we're building a movement of low-wage workers, in this case specifically caregivers, to demand racial and economic justice for this workforce and for the people that they take care of who have been neglected really for 15 years in terms of stagnating state funding that has left conditions declining for the workforce and has meant that the workers themselves are trapped in poverty.
Right. And Kelly, I know this is your first time striking, and this isn't something you really thought you would be doing. Can you tell me a little bit about how you eventually got to this position of joining the strike?
Sure. None of us wanted this. We definitely don't want to walk out on our clients and lock in our management, who are our friends. They're suffering in the houses, 42 hours, 62 hours out of pop, and the clients can't go anywhere while we're out. They miss their regular staff, their security. But we're doing this for them so that we don't have to leave them, and so that when older staff retire, that somebody is going to come to take their place.
And Rob, tell me a little bit about what kind of funding you all are looking to see from the state here.
Of course. I think that one of the things that's a starting point is that this sector has been underfunded to the tune of about $840 million since 2008. If the funding had simply kept pace with inflation. So we're asking the state of Connecticut, our governor, Speaker Matt Ritter, and Senate President Marty Looney to come together to allocate $400 million of funding to raise wages. That would be a pathway to $25 an hour for these workers, up from $17, with health insurance and retirement for all. And this is a Medicaid-funded industry, which means that the full tab for the state is actually only half of that amount. It's about $200 million because the federal government will match. So we think that investment would be a tremendous recognition of the vital work that these caregivers did. They have been on the front lines for years, and during the pandemic made sure that their clients were kept safe.
So obviously the state is in a rare surplus right now, and not just a budget surplus, but also with a historic rainy day fund, and everyone wants a little piece of that pie. A lot of groups asking for more funding, and Speaker of the House Matt Ritter has told SEIU and those striking that when it comes to a solution that the state legislature is currently looking at, he knows it won't be enough and it won't be as much as you're asking for. He says he's looking at about a 2.5% to maybe a 3% boost in funding. But tell me what it would look like, in your opinion, in group homes, in these day programs, and in everyday life if it doesn't get to that level that you all are asking for.
I think it will lead to a total collapse of the fields altogether without this funding package. We're already close to that right now, still. We have not recovered from the staff exodus that was even starting before COVID. We're so short-staffed that everyone in the office is regularly working direct care and doing their own job. It's hard to train the new staff coming in to give them our skills because we're busy working the direct care too. Everybody's working doubles. And there's no one to carry the fields on, and the staff that have stayed and that care, we're worried what is going to happen to our clients in the future. and what is gonna happen to the kids who need group homes later.
Look, this is work that used to be done by state employees with livable wages and benefits. It's been outsourced to the private sector on the cheap. And what we were saying is that folks need to be lifted up. These agencies that are striking currently have vacancy rates as high as 30% because they cannot recruit and retain staff on poverty level wages. If we're going to be in the business of caring for people and we're going to be moving it to the private sector, then there has to be a match in terms of funding that allows the workforce to stabilize and the clients to get the care that they so deeply deserve.
And Kelly, you said some of these issues already present prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, but we're sort of climbing our way out of that now, and even with those issues before, especially with the pandemic, it's now left even more of a serious strain. Can you tell me how this has changed your jobs and your industry at all, and why it left these programs and these homes in a position of even more desperate need?
I just think this would have happened without COVID.
Okay.
Like I got hired in 2007 at my agency when minimum wage was $7.50, I believe, and my starting rate was $14.67. So that was double the minimum wage. Yeah. We've only gone up $2.58 since then. We now start at $17.25 per the state, and minimum wage is $15 as of today. So we've been drowning, and everybody that has stayed, we just love the clients, but a lot of people that are still working there just cannot afford to stay there.
And as you said, this obviously isn't a new issue. The union has gone on strikes and protests several times in the past 2 decades. You've had to protest almost constantly for more funding. So what has it been like doing that for so many years? Are you and the union tired at all, Rob?
Well, look, I think that everybody's tired, but really more than that, what I'm seeing in this group of strikers is just a tremendous sense of pride, because for the first time, probably in many people's lives, they're being seen and they're being heard. I'm talking about people like Kelly, like Yvonne Dimmitt with 38 years of seniority who's making less than $20 an hour, striking at 2 agencies, like Sylvia Grant from Oak Hill School, who was arrested today. She spent part of last year homeless, working full-time, living in her car. Folks like Millie Koch, 67 years old, 20 years of seniority at Oak Hill School, working 7 days a week to support herself and her disabled husband. The challenges that this workforce is currently dealing with in a state where there is the amount of wealth that we have that is unallocated, it just should not be. We believe that the state of Connecticut has an affirmative responsibility to move publicly funded workers up and out of poverty.
And so at the time that we're having this conversation, we haven't seen a final budget proposal put out by the state yet, but I'll start with Rob first. What have you heard in any of these, conversations? What have you felt like you've heard or not heard from the legislature and the governor's office so far about your asks?
Well, honestly, the main thing that we've heard is that we're relying on, the spending cap as the only reason not to allocate funding that lifts workers up. Again, the tab for whatever is allocated for this workforce, it should really only be 50% of the full cost. Right now, because of the spending cap, my understanding is that the state is not accepting free federal money. We're leaving money on the table because of the spending cap. And it really, the question is, again, if not now, when? When there's billions of dollars that could be allocated to lift workers out of poverty, to provide clients with the care that they need. If we can't do that now, when will it happen?
And now those in the legislature made it continuously clear they don't think they can meet you where you are when it comes to funding, but obviously you're still out there pushing for this. And as you mentioned, those spending caps, they're sticking to them, which means a much smaller boost in allocated funding. But when it comes to a compromise and a budget that hopefully will pass through the legislature, for you, Kelly, as who's a worker, who's in this, who's a part of this strike, what could the state do to make you feel heard? What do you think they could say or do that would make you feel like you're being heard?
I don't feel that I need to be heard. I feel that they simply just must pass this full package because our clients are not going to be able to live their life without their staff, and they're losing staff every day.
And Rob, in your opinion, do you feel like there could be any sort of compromise here?
Well, right now, I mean, we're not even close to something that makes a meaningful difference to this workforce. This group of workers has been hammered by inflation over the past 2 years. You know, we have folks who work in the sector who faced a doubling of their rent, when what's being put on the table is you know, at best $1 an hour at this point in time. So we just need to be doing much more. You know, if our elected officials don't advocate for these workers, then they're left in the situation which they're in now, which is that they have to take to the streets, we have to strike, we have to protest, we have to do whatever it is that we need to be heard.
Yeah. Well, Rob, Kelly, thank you so much for being here. We'll certainly be watching as we get closer to a final budget proposal here, but we really appreciate you coming on and speaking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.